Well, good evening and welcome to my workshop. I'm so sick of having irrational fears. I am Marina Shakur Haber, and I am obviously the presenter of this workshop. And this is, as the title says, for anyone who is presenting with anxiety. So here's what I will be covering tonight. I will be talking about the problem with anxiety, why it's a problem, and why you must address this. I will also give you data points that support my reasoning. And then I will teach you 3 techniques, actually 4, because the trance that I will do with you is really a technique, a progressive relaxation technique. It's called the 1 point that will help you to create calm, courage, and confidence and take you to a different state. So it's a live practice. And then I will put it all together and we combine everything that I've shown you with what this looks like when you apply it. And before I forget, let me remember to tell you that in a moment, I will also share with you how you can get the bonus that I offer for these events. And I will share with you in a moment what that is. Now, before I get started, this is what I'd like you to take away from tonight's presentation, and that is not only having a better understanding of anxiety, but to be able to turn anxiety off at will when needed in the moment and get that instant relief so that you switch into that calmness where you have more confidence and where you will get your life back. That's what I hope that you will get out of tonight. You're in this workshop, which tells me that chances are that not only I am a person presenting with anxiety, but that anxiety is affecting your life. And perhaps you may feel rather defeated by it. And here's the thing. Fears, these rational or irrational fears, feel real because our brain does not know the difference between real or imagined. Therein, though, lies also a promise how you can overcome this problem. Because if you can imagine and visualize fear, you can learn to visualize something better, and you can most certainly learn to also work the patterns in the reverse in a way that you'd like them to work, not in a way your brain tells you. And why you must reclaim your peace is because if you don't, number 1, anxiety takes over. And number 2, you truly barely can hold your life together. It's losing your life to something that makes you feel terribly uncomfortable. And you may not even remember what it feels like to be you in a calm state because you haven't done that in a very, very long time. And I'd like to also let you know that this is a safe place. The quotes that you will see, I have taken those from real people and from experiences that they have experienced anxiety states and in real time. So they are not made up. This is what people express being anxious. And I'd also like you to know that all these quotes are from all the people that feel anxiety, that present with anxiety, and their fears are as valid as yours. And they may seem at times outlandish and ridiculous and crazy. Doesn't make them any less real because this is not logical. So let's get started with why anxiety is a problem. So let me go through the problem with anxiety. It's not just that it creates fear, that were one thing, but it creates a certain state of tension. It creates this persistent gnawing sense that something is fundamentally wrong, be it with your life, your relationships, with your health, with your career, you name it. And what it is you future base, you put all these negative fears, you put them into the future, and you paint your future rather bleak, and you're basing it on your very negative, painful past experiences. So that's the supporting evidence that tells you, yes, that can happen in the future as well. Problem is that we can change our perspective of how we see our past, but not when you're in an anxious state. The constant sense that everything is always, always wrong. And what happens when we think that everything that we do, everything wrong, and that everything is fearful and frightful, and everything is rather, there's a huge cloud of danger over us. The logical thing is, in this case, there is logic, avoid, 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 and apply safety behaviors. When you feel anxious, it's as if there is this perpetual weight on your shoulders. And in our age of social media, we compare ourselves even more to people that we perceive and believe to be happy, which sets up a whole cycle of more anxiety. Because now, as we compare to them, we believe we are not good enough, that we fall short of them, and that fuels our self-doubt, our negative self-talk, and creates also very unrealistic expectations, while we're holding on to really false beliefs at the same time. Anxiety is not something that happens overnight, and it doesn't happen in adulthood. I have observed, and evidence and research agrees with that it happens as of early childhood. That is, children who grow up and are being excessively judged, harassed, ridiculed, humiliated, create protective patterns. They must do something to keep safe. Also, I have observed that children that grow up in very unsafe households and environments, that they are living under that constant threat, those children cannot say, oh, let's relax, because this danger is going to happen in 2 hours, so I can relax until then. That is impossible. So these children are in this constant state of threat, which develops the limbic system, while it underdevelops their prefrontal cortex, the thinking part, and this is the feeling part, the protective part. Early program starts exactly that way. And if we don't address it, when we don't feel it, what it leads to is increased lower self-esteem, difficulty with relationships, even the relationship with ourselves, as well as in academia and in our career, because what happens when we're in this constant threat and this survival thing, a state, we shut down the thinking part. So therefore, it's logical that you, academically speaking, and in performance, you're also falling short because you're under threat. The fear itself increases the additional anxiety, because this is a no-win situation. If you're afraid of doing something because it could go wrong, or you fear the fear of being afraid, there's just nothing that you can do. There's nothing you can win unless you find techniques that help you to get out of it. You misinterpret the situation that are upcoming, and instead of this being a helpful signal, which it is supposed to be, you're misinterpreting your fear, and the fear becomes your trigger. When calm becomes scary, I have a client who cannot calm down, and we're working on that right now, because what it does is that she believes when she calms down, she lets her guard down. When she lets her guard down, in her, based on her belief system and her past experiences, that's when she's vulnerable. The paradox, though, is that the opposite is true. The calmer you are, the better you will respond versus react. Therein lies the paradox of the anxiety. She also fears the happiness trap. She believes that when she is too happy, she sets herself up to suffer more, to get hurt. Because again, she let her guard down. She wasn't hypersensitive and hypervigilant. I'm doing this because of this system here, and because we start spinning. So that's the paradoxical feeling that is created, because, of course, happiness is the one state we all aim for and hope to achieve. When joy triggers panic, what happens? We fear loss and disappointment. In her case, she fears that she will be again stood up. She will be left behind. She will be abandoned. So she must protect her from being hurt again. That's based on past trauma and on past negative experiences. She cannot turn those around. We're working on that. And of course, back again to the belief that happiness is being vulnerable, calm is being weak. And there's a low expectation of positive. She does not know how to deal with positive emotions, because that is also, there's too much of a negativity bias there for her to accept that she can actually be positive about something. Very often, this leads to catastrophic and apocalyptic thinking. What does that mean? Well, it is if there is perhaps something could go wrong. There is a particular threat that could be looming in your future, but based on your fear, based on your exaggeration of the past events, exaggeration of the danger, you're creating this catastrophic image of what could happen. And that's obviously, what will that do? It will push you back, and you go even further into fear and dread and isolation. It leads to worrying and worrying. How many times have any of you woken up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., overwhelmed and overcome by this worry, this what if this happens? Very often people are also get into this worry loop when they think about health. A beloved member of my family was always in this worry loop, always in this worry loop. It affected her. She held the tension in her stomach, in her gut, and she ended up with colon cancer. And sadly, she did not survive it. There is research supporting that this continued stress from the worrying and endless worrying will bring on a greater incidence of cancer and many, many other diseases. When worry becomes the problem, you're affected by this emotional overwhelm. You're constantly in this state of worry. Your mindset is about worry. It's about negativity, about problems, and about the inability to get out of it. Can you just imagine what that feels like? And you're always envisioning failure. And one of those big things is that you lose control over your anxiety. Another client And that is one of the things that I will address in a moment. She called me and she said, I wish I had someone that I could have spoken to because I lost control. I knew I was doing the wrong thing by reacting, but I couldn't, I needed to be heard. That's the loss of control. Very often, anxiety can spin so out of control that you create impossibly specific fears. It just fuels, it just keeps on rolling and keeps on getting bigger, and it becomes very, very specific. So, and most people prepare under these circumstances always for the worst. They must have plan A, plan B, plan C. But we're living only in the negative and can never see that there's also another alternative. There could be a positive way, a positive thing that could happen. Most of the time, the things that we fear never happen at all. Anxiety gets extremely creative because your mind is creative. You can envision anything you want. And again, I'd like to stress, not only does that serve anxiety, but when you learn how to take your power back, you can create the antidote to anxiety and you take your power back. I'll show you in a moment. Logic never applies to anxiety. I wonder if you've tried it, to talk yourself out of it, to tell yourself, listen, that's so ridiculous, this fear. And actually, I've learned from personal experiences that it makes it really worse because now my anxiety must prove to me that it is right. That part in me, let's be very clear about this, that part in me that is anxious must prove it. My client said the other day, she said, it was like I have this thing in this one hand and here reason was, and this anxiety went boom over it. And I said, no. And it was done. So logic doesn't apply. Why does logic not apply? Because anxiety is in your, fear is from your unconscious mind and comes from your limbic system. It's emotional and its purpose, it is not logical. They're not logical. They're purposeful. And their purpose is to protect you and keep you safe. And that's what they do. So now I'd like to show you why anxiety is a problem. It's not that it's only uncomfortable. It affects every part of your life. It's as if you have this most beautiful garden and you see one weed in it, you go, never mind, not a big deal. And then you turn around and you have a garden filled with weed. That's when you don't look into it. There's the exhaustion factor. That is part of the stress syndrome, because anxiety and stress have that in common. What you do as your reaction is you pull in all your resources, your hormones, your chemicals, your oxygen, your blood, to fuel the parts in you that let you run away or attack the other or freeze in the moment and hide. So what you're doing is why it's so exhausting is that you're depleting your resources, and therefore, in reality, you become more vulnerable to all these diseases because you've depleted your resources and your immunology. You become weaker. It becomes draining. Of course it does, because of this mental and emotional exhaustion, because you've put it all out there. You're always on the run. Your adrenaline is running. You're always in fear and panic. It disrupts your sleep pattern, so you can't even refresh there. The physical manifestations are you are more likely to get sick, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, you name it, cancer, I mentioned it. The daily impact of anxiety and chronic stress is that they affect every aspect of your life. every aspect of your physical daily life. And that, of course, translates in how you present yourself at your job, in your school, at home. When fear rules your life, it affects not only how you show up, it affects your capacity to focus, to concentrate. It undermines your decision making, because what you are being driven by is the avoidance and procrastination. You don't want to go to this point where you feel the fear. Shame is another extremely powerful and negative feeling. Very often I find that people who present with anxiety have often silly fears, which are not silly at all, because fear is fear. It doesn't matter. But now, because they're ashamed of them being so-called silly, they hide even more, because part of anxiety, part of that syndrome is that we seek isolation and withdrawal from society. So here it starts by feeling shame and embarrassment. When we feel embarrassed, of course, we're not going to share it. When we feel embarrassed, we are obviously not going to go out and share with people how we feel, because if we are embarrassed about it, we're definitely not going to go out and speak about that, which affects our community life, our social connections, and all the things that bring us support and get us out of this anxious state. And what it leads to is silent suffering, because people may not really judge us. We judge us before anyone can. And it leads us, it pushes us into what we may believe to be that comfort zone, which is in reality really a familiarity zone, the space that feels familiar, but it's really not comfortable. And what happens is that by doing that, we're also not building the connections that we need that would help us to get stronger. So we become weaker instead. Isolation makes fears go stronger, because we shrink our world and we withdraw. And by withdrawing, literally, the danger becomes bigger. Anxiety overestimates the danger. As you have shrunk back, of course, that looks bigger and bigger. As you avoid, you're also telling yourself that you don't have the resources and the strength and the resilience and the capacity and capabilities to do the thing that would help you to not be scared and do it. And go to networking meetings, for example, or social engagements, cocktail parties, which I really don't like. But just saying that, therefore, you make them feel even more threatening, because you believe less in your capabilities. When irrational feels rational is because it is not logical, and there is no rational or irrational. There is no real or imagined. It's all the same. What it does though, it can lead to a feeling of being trapped and being unable to function, because you can't even identify what's real, what's not real, what's rational, what's not rational. So it really starts an even greater anxiety overwhelm. And that's why anxiety must be addressed. If you leave it untreated, like I said, it's like weeds in your garden. If, for example, you exercised once and you think that that will do it for the rest of your life, good luck. And we all know that that doesn't work. So a one-time like tonight, just to get an introduction and do this one practice with me in the moment, that's very good. It's a good beginning, but it's just the one time. This is something that you must address every single day of your life. Because if you don't, it expands. And I've heard of many cases where an anxiety started by, for example, being on Fifth Avenue on the day before Christmas with, I think, probably hundreds of thousands of people all walking up and down quickly, or it used to be that way, up and down trying to get that last present. And it got you into such a panic state. And if you don't throw yourself into this fear again in the following year or the next day, then you're increasing it, and it can lead that at one point you won't even step out of your house. The cost of avoidance is that what happens is when you don't address it, it becomes bigger. You reinforce the negative neural pathways. And I will show you in a moment why that is. But the positive thing about it is, if these neural pathways exist and you created them, you can uncreate them just as well. You can stop that. And here's how that works. Here's the trigger. Let's assume, let's just take networking, one of my least favorite things to do. So the other day, I said, I should be going to that networking. And then I was, it's not feeling good. Let's not go. That was the avoidance. Immediately, I felt, thank God, dodged that bullet. But what it really did is now I'm doubting my abilities to network comfortably even more, while the network starts to look even more threatening than before. This relief is very much part of that stress cycle. When you, for example, you go on a roller coaster, people who like it, they feel that high, and then there comes the crash. Here it is the same thing, sort of in reverse. Drug addicts, they do the same things, or alcoholics. There is a moment of high. That's when the relief sets in, and then comes the crash when you realize, ooh, now it's even worse. I have to do more of the doing the thing or the avoiding of the thing. So there's your loop. When you address it, you expand your inner strength. You realize, I've got this. I can do it. When you do that, you build a reservoir of your inner resilience. You see, yes, there is actual evidence that I can do this, that I am good. And now I'm going to give you 3 data points, actually only 2. One I will give you in a moment. The treatment-seeking paradox is fascinating, and I see this all the time. Most people who present with anxiety, it takes them about 3 to 30 years to seek help. Just let that one sink in for a moment. Versus other disorders, 1 to 14 years. This one is actually logical, because we're talking about fear here. And again, fear is illogical. It's not rational. So you fear the treatment because there are all those excuses coming in. Oh, it won't work. What if it fails? What if it blah, blah? And therefore you suffer silently for decades. And what really happens is you give up 3 to 30 years of your time when you could have found help and could have had a huge career, a happy life, what have you, lived without anxiety. Wait for it. The cognitive revolution. There are many, many treatment forms today for anxiety. There is cognitive behavioral therapy. There's also clinical hypnotherapy and with NLP, which I do, and parts theory, which I also use. And I use cognitive behavioral therapy in my treatment plans. Yes, today there are absolutely ways of addressing and treating it. I give you 3 techniques now that you can apply right away. The 3-step irrational fear transformation method. So many people present with anxiety. Let's take this generalized and sanitized version of I'm worried about my health. But in reality, what you're really afraid of is that you are convinced that you have brain cancer, although the MRI showed nothing. So instead of sanitizing, this particular technique suggests that you should state it the way you feel it and what you are believing, that you're convinced that you have brain cancer, although the MRI was normal. And then you state that you've had the exact fear about X amount of different diseases this past year. So now it is lowering it and it is starting to look a little bit less real. And then you ask yourself, what would someone who doesn't have this anxiety, this fear, what would they do right now? So you start thinking, you're taking it out of yourself and you're putting it into someone else. What would they do? What would be that one thing that they do? So here, what you do is you figure out what that thing is, and then you do it right away. Action. You take action right away because that creates the feeling shift. You can't linger around and think about it. That ruminating brings you right back. So you must take action right now. What would be the thing that someone else would be doing about it? The detective method is excellent as well, the anxiety detective method. When you have an irrational fear, you start detecting and investigating your own patterns. The more you understand your patterns, the better qualified you are to switch them around. So start tracking the time when this fear, for example, when this fear appears, write it down. So then you see what happened at the time when this happened. Were you tired, hungry, stressed, angry, scared? What happened? Then analyze what happened just before this fear started. Were you on social media? Were you drinking coffee? Were you relaxing? Did you watch a movie? How many times have you had this exact same fear before? Think of those times and perhaps also think of what happened around those times. Be the detective. And what happened the last 10 times you had such an irrational fear? As I said before, most likely nothing happened. So the goal isn't to dismiss this, but to simply create enough data that this approves, that shoots down your other premise, which it must be true. And number 3 is having a conversation with your future self. So imagine you're caught in an irrational fear. So what you can do is have a conversation with the you a year ago. So the 1 year younger you who found themselves in that exact same fear. What would you tell them that you know now that they did not know then? So then you flip this and you see yourself in the future, and the future you looks back at the present you, and now that future you can share with you, but you in this present moment don't know. So this turns your anxiety around by giving you advice and switching the perspective. It's really, really important that you learn to switch perspectives around. And that's a whole technique of NLP that is incredibly powerful and can switch your past around. Not that we can change the past, but you can change your perspective, which is what you're doing here. The key insights is that you work with your anxiety, and with anxiety instead of against it. When you work against it, all you're doing is you're fighting begets more fighting. So, and also when you just tell yourself, just stop thinking about it, that usually creates even more anxiety because it's just not helping. And what we have done now is interrupts patterns. That's what you want to do. And so now what I will be doing with you is we're going to go into this state of relaxation, of this calming capacity. So we're going to expand that for you. Now, I cannot see you clearly, and I just like to make sure that if you are driving or operating any heavy machinery, please don't join us, because in a moment, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and that would not be a good thing to do. So this is called the 1 point. And what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to lean back in your chair, preferably have your hands right now on your lap and your feet squarely on the floor, if that is possible. Otherwise, just relax and lean back. Then what I'd like you to do is go back to a moment when you felt very stressed, angry, upset. Please do not choose a traumatic event. That's not the right time here right now. Just take a stressful moment, and I'd like you to really, really make this feeling, really get into it, all right? And start experiencing that stressful feeling in your body again. So allow it to spin. See it happening in your body, feel it rushing through your body. Start feeling that feeling in your mind, your thoughts, racing thoughts, whatever it was. Just really kick it up. Let it come to fruition. And then what I'd like you to do is measure your level of distress. 1 to 10, 10 being the highest level of distress. And just as FYI, anything at 4 or below is acceptable. Anything above 4 needs to be addressed. All right, so now that you are at this uncomfortable feeling, I'd like you, as I said, just please close your eyes and put one hand underneath your heart and above your belly button, and focus all your attention on this 1 point of your body in the middle, in the center of your body, between your belly button and your spine, in the middle of your body. And focus with all your attention on this 1 point while you inhale deeply through your nose, slowly, and exhale longer through your mouth, while still focusing on this 1 point. And now continue with your breathing. On inhale, bring the breath all the way to the top and feel you're taking in life force. And as you exhale, imagine your tension is softening and melting away while you are continuing to focus on this one spot. And what I'd like you to do now is continue breathing in and out and noticing the soft and gentle rise and fall of your chest, just like the waves of the ocean coming and going while you're focusing on your one point. And now, what I'd like you to do is just remember a time when you felt really, really good, a time when you were so perhaps happy, confident, comfortable, in love, or successful. Whatever time when you felt really good, allow that image to come up in you and return to that memory as if you were back there right now. And make this image bigger. And now, see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel what you felt, how good you felt at that time. And now make this image bigger. Make it bigger yet. Make it even bigger. Bring it closer. And make the colors brighter, richer, more abundant, luscious. Fill it with light. That's right. That's right. Really, as if you were a painter, just put that on there. And then make the sounds even more comforting, more harmonious, more supportive, more loving. That's right. And now double that good feeling. Double that good feeling. Double it again and double it again. Notice where it is coming from. What direction does it have? And then you take that direction and you allow it to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now allow it to spin even bigger and bigger. Double it and double it. And when you're at the height of this good feeling, I'd like you to step into that image of you in this amazing state. And now what I want you to do is see through your own eyes at that moment in this amazingly great feeling, and see through your own eyes this beautiful, amazing place that you are in. Hear what you hear and feel what you feel. That's right. And take on the physiology of you being so happy or so confident or successful. You notice your shoulders are changing, your facial expression is changing, your entire body is changing. That's right. Your gestures are more empowered. You're in control. You're confident. You're beaming. Yes, allow that smile to show. Show your teeth in this moment. That's right. And when you're at the height of this, squeeze your thumb and middle finger in one hand together, really, really tight, and anchor this into your unconscious mind now, so that you can go to this state anytime you need, when you need it, because it's yours. And as you are in this good state, I'd like you to imagine that you could speak to your heart. At the heart level is where courage lives. And what I'd like you to do is ask your heart how you could take better care of yourself. What must be done? Ask your heart what you must do to take better care of yourself, to make yourself be in more relaxed and calmer states. And if the answer is not coming now, it will come later while you sleep and dream and sleep. And the learning from this moment and from this workshop will continue as you learn and grow and grow and learn, because nothing stands still. Everything will grow. And here in this moment, you have taken a step already towards the possibility and potential of you being better and being in control of you. And now, step back out of that you and back into the you in this room, your room, and wiggle your shoulders. Take a big ah and open your eyes. And now what I'd like you to do is I want you to take that measurement again and see where you're at now. What was the number of your distress before? And what level are you at now? If it's 4 or less, you're good. If not, you can repeat this later. All right, so now let us continue. The strategies that are shared with you are part of the framework that I use with my clients to help them reclaim their peace of mind. And what I have learned is that most people who believe, who worry, who stress, and who are anxious, they believe that they must do that to have an edge. Remember that edge to protect the things that mean a lot to them. So they must be fearful and anxious to keep those things safe. That's the protective part. And what they don't realize, though, is that most of the time by doing this anxiety thing, that they lose the very thing they try to protect, plus their health and their mental well-being. And above all, the one thing we can never get back, you may wonder what that is. It's time. It is time that you can never, ever get back. And the problem is not a lack of good intentions, but rather a lack of knowledge of what anxiety does and the emotions that it influences in us that hold us back. We stay stuck in this. And what happens is that it's not about what happens is that you have this skewed perception that you are a victim of it, when in reality, you are a participating contributor to the problem. And the problem is that you don't know how to change that. That is the problem of most people presenting with anxiety. The real goal here tonight is not to remove anxiety altogether. Anxiety has a positive intent, and that positive intent is to keep you protective. It would be impossible, and it wouldn't be very smart to do. And what the goal is to keep the protection, but get rid of the overprotection. To keep the vigilance, get rid of the hypervigilance. Because if you don't, protection becomes your prison. It suffocates you, it imprisons you, it disempowers you, and it handicaps you, and it makes you dependent on others. Anxiety and fear, they are both bullies. When you look around, how many institutions fold because they're fearful? And that happens with your external and internal structure. If you allow the fear to bully you, you crumble. You crumble. But by naming it, by talking about it, by being in a community, by understanding it, you break that and you build a stronger foundation. What happens if you don't address it? As I said before, sleep and mood issues, panic. You panic and you create paralysis. You get panic attacks at work and anywhere. There is no place that you cannot be overcome by a sudden panic attack, which paralyzes you. And that's the frozen syndrome. It freezes you in this time and place. It leads to decision paralysis. You're fearful of any decisions that you make because you worry about failures, about the what ifs, and you're expecting failure. So therefore, you'd rather avoid and don't do anything at all. Procrastination, which is also, I dodged that bullet. Most people who present with anxiety are also high achievers, and they create this perfectionism prison. You set impossibly high standards that are impossible to attain. So you're setting yourself up for failure. You want to avoid failure, so you don't do it at all. Or you criticize yourself so terribly that you must fail. So either way, you're not getting to what you want and deserve. You destroy your relationships with loved ones, and most importantly, with yourself. The most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. Who is your worst critic? You are. Who puts you down the most? You do. So that is the relationship that must be restored. And if you don't, there goes that downward spiral. The avoidance leads to more danger. You start feeling lost and disconnected from who you are. When I heard my client say this to me, I can't take this anymore. It was for me like that aha moment. I said, I have to do something not only for her, but for more people. And that's why I created my From Chaos to Calm, which I will show you how you can get that in a moment. Because it's beyond conquering your anxiety and restoring your relationships. It is about changing, about reprogramming your neural pathways, reprogramming them. I addressed this a couple of times. If you can learn it, you can unlearn it. That's why I created this program. It is a recording with 3 or 4 techniques that are extraordinarily powerful. And when you do practice these techniques daily, perhaps you may even want to practice them twice daily. So you create new neural pathways and reverse that thinking and the habits and the behaviors. This is just the beginning. There's no question about it. This is giving you an understanding, and my wish and hope for you is to take this to the next level, which is where point 2 comes in. Most people who present with anxiety, they delay seeking treatment up to 11 years. Now, that's a long time. And remember, people avoid seeking help between 3 and 30 years. That's an incredibly long time. I personally don't think that in 30 years I'll still be here. I personally would want to take care of it now, do it now. And the most common reason why people avoid it is, as this research states, is that people, they simply don't know how to get help. I also find that it is the fear that won't even allow us to see that there is a possibility of a how, because you're telling yourself, oh, if I do this, then I will not be anxious, therefore I will be happy or calm, and then I let my guard down. And as I said, that is not so, because you're actually more powerful the calmer you are. How to get help is by being in this workshop. The fact that you are here is telling me already that you are seeking a solution. But you'd be surprised how many people can relax when they see the steps that they get, see the steps that will help them to get them from where they are to where they want to be. Because in anxious people or people with anxiety, they need to see that strategy. It's not only saying it, and it has to be done with very, very cautious steps, because otherwise the overwhelm steps in. Instead of reacting, which is the limbic part, you learn to respond. And you learn to visualize a future that you want to have happen. Instead of spinning the negative images, you learn to spin positive ones. You're letting go of the past, surrender to what you cannot change, and establish present moment awareness. You change your identity. Many people come into my room and they are saying that they are anxious people. I turn that around immediately by saying, there is a part in you that identifies with anxiety, but it's only one part. And you can learn to understand that part, to embrace it, and learn to live with it. You can also learn to calm it down. There's a huge difference in how you address that part. And it's not about only managing symptoms, but to get to the root of it, of changing those habitual thoughts and behaviors and patterns that keep you stuck. It may be uncomfortable to look at that, but by staying in it, I can guarantee you that's uncomfortable for a very long time. And it's really relearning the whole brain system that will empower you to have a richer world for yourself. You transform your relationships, especially the one with yourself. You learn sustainable skills. A huge must-have are skills. If you don't have skills, how can you get there? And that's why I have this gift offer, which is from chaos to calm. And what I am doing here is, I'm going to tell you very honestly, I'm bribing you, because I want you to say yes to yourself, to step to that edge and say, I will hop on a call with her. Because the fastest way in this case is also the free way. I have made it very easy. This is a free personal growth call, and it's for 40 minutes. And you can do that by getting on my schedule by https://marina.coach/apply. I'll put it in a chat in a moment. It's for free. There are no strings attached, nothing at all. The only thing is show up. I cannot help you if you don't show up. If you take that one step and you book it now, which is what I highly recommend, that's one step. But if you then don't show up, I can't help you. There is nothing that I can do. And it's not saying yes to me, it's saying yes to yourself, to believing in yourself that you can have this unlimited power and potential, and that there's something that overprotects you. Wouldn't you want to get rid of it? The complete path is, first step was being in this workshop. The second step is getting on the free call with me. The third step is watching the video and really practicing it. Not only watching, which is wonderful, but you need to practice it. Nothing helps us to get skills is by watching something. It's by doing it. Understanding your fear. Remember, anxiety is about two things: avoidance and safety. I feel your fear. I know what that feels like. I have anxiety too. But staying stuck for 1 to 30 years, by that time, you will look back at your life and go, I wish I had done that. I wish I had lived my life. Instead, look now forward as that one technique and say, what would my wiser future self tell me now? Which would be most likely, get on that call. It feels uncomfortable. Oh, most definitely. Anxiety is not about a comfortable state. That's what it is. It is about being vulnerable. It is, when you stay in this state, it's about surviving and not thriving. Rumination, thinking about negative past events, trigger your hypersensitive system and shut you down for protection purposes. And so you hide, you withdraw, and you don't do. The current impact is that everything starts feeling like a threat. Every place around you, you feel helpless, you will feel hopeless. You see no way out. It's like there's a dark map, a dark reality that you live in. Your world becomes smaller as your perceived danger becomes greater. You no longer trust your instincts or internal resources. And there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You've simply adopted a couple of unwanted habits based on practices that you adopted when you were in situations of threat, and that helped you get through those times. But not everything has a lifespan of forever. We must adapt to our present current state and visualize something better for the future so that we can come out of this prison cell. As I said, you learned negative thinking in order to keep you protected, that loop-de-loop around. But that means that as it is bidirectional, you can unlearn those things and learn something that is more suitable for you right now. If you don't, and the longer you wait, the greater the imbalance, the bigger the threat, the smaller the you. So allow your chaos become your catalyst. Allow yourself to step to the edge of your discomfort. Instead of looking down into this fictional abyss and imagine that you're falling because you're failing, imagine you can fly. What if you can fly and you can soar? It's just one small step. Acknowledge that anxiety is causing a problem in your life and that you want to make a change. Can you imagine this? We just did that imagination. Can you imagine a life where you live without fear and where you can reach your potential? Smart people make good decisions fast so their ego won't interfere. That's exactly right. Because the longer you wait, the more your negativity, your negative bias, and your ego will start interfering, as well as your fear and anxiety. It's an easy decision. It's free, no strings attached. Just get onto my 40-minute free session. This is what that is. And I will put this in the chat and you will get your free recording. Do it right away and get onto the call, because it's a two-step process. One is scheduling is, the other is getting on the call. And look at me, I'm not a scary person. Trust me, I'm not. But here's another thing that I am creating. And this one, it will be starting the first week in September. It's what I call my Clarity Collective. The other day, a lady said to me, actually, there were now a couple of people said to me in the past few weeks, if there was only a community that I could contact in a moment of threat and danger, as I am experiencing this particular stage in my life. This particular lady said, I didn't want to call you at 5 o'clock in the morning. She could have. I told her, in the future, just send me a code. And that's what I'm going to create for my Clarity Collective. You know, over time, we come up with better ideas than it started out with. So this is like a three triad of elements. One is the community. I will hold weekly live collaborative sessions, 2-hour sessions twice a week, one at noon and one in the evening. Then there is the community, one that is on Facebook. And in these live groups, by the way, what I will do is also have breakout rooms where you will practice a technique, which has a twofold advantage. One is you're practicing the technique. Two is you're meeting someone else that you can then meet here in the collaborative group that I create, where you can have instant access. You will connect with your peers and me. I will hold weekly sessions live there, and we will get together and you can ask me and we will talk and we all collaborate. That is powerful. You can attend any one of these or all three. Magic happens when you attend all three groups. And that's what this is. And all it is going to cost, it's $97. What you're getting in return is what I've just described. Get on and send me an email to marina.coach. I'll give it to you in a moment. And what you will get from me is my special single standing success session. A lot of S's on purpose. I give you 1 hour and I will work with you. And that is part of this program. Once a year, you get an hour with me where I focus on you. And we will prepare for that ahead of time. So it's not about asking. I will be fully prepared for you because you've already submitted what I need to work with you. So now let me stop the share. And I will put in the chat this information so that you can do this right now. If you want to get on this collaborative, again, first week in September, it is going to happen. If 2 people are on it, guess what? You just got lucky because it's almost like a private session. Just your luck. Just send me an email and put yes on it. Yes, count me in, put me on the waiting list. Get on my schedule now. It's the 40-minute personal growth, and we will talk together and I will help you to get a strategy that will help you to get up. If you want to talk to me about working together, we can do that. If not, that's just perfect and perfectly all right with me. But the many people that have gotten on this call with me, I can tell you, they considered it to be a turning point because they started to get the upper hand over their anxiety. They started to believe that they can make a difference and they can overcome this uncomfortable feeling, and they can get to the edge and they can start soaring. I'm a little bit longer than I would have liked to, but oh well, you're still here, and I thank you for that. And I appreciate you, and I thank you. And do this technique tonight, the one. Thank you. Thank you, Nora. I appreciate you. Thank you so much with all my heart. And get on the calendar. I don't bite, I smile a lot, and I will give you really advice that is from my heart, because my purpose and my intention in whatever is left of my life is I want to help people with anxiety to shine and to be the best they can be. So with that, I will leave it for tonight, and I thank both of you for being here. The two last Mohicans. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful night.